welcome to another edition of Unbox Live. I'm your host, Nate Beck, and sitting next to me
is your other host, JP Awad. What is happening, everybody?
Thanks for joining us today. We are super excited about what we get to do today. Today on Unbox Live, we are showcasing SOMM Cigars and Vlad Stojanov. So SOMM is a brand owned by Vlad Stojanov. And we're going to be doing a cool little experiment. We've done this once before, so this is an even more finely tuned iteration of this experiment. We have been storing one blend of Vlad cigars at 3 different humidities, 65%, 69%, and 72%. Shortly, we're going to be bringing on Vlad and our good friend Dave West from Small Batch, because we're going to be actually, this whole experiment is actually being partnered with Small Batch this go round, as you can see right here. And we're going to be, JP and I, smoking this completely blind. So we have these 3 cigars. The humidity packs have been removed just right before we started our broadcast. So everything should be good to go. And they've been aging for about a full month at those different humidities. And so we're going to smoke all 3 blind. JP and I are. Vlad and Dave have essentially blind picked out of one bag. They're going to be smoking one cigar, and we're going to try and see if we can figure out which one we like the best, and is it the humidity that you think you normally smoke your cigars at. So let's bring in Vlad and Dave and kick this off. Welcome, guys.
What's happening?
Hello.
All right. Well, Vlad, tell us a little bit about yourself and SOMM Cigars.
So I have been doing cigars since, haven't been in a distribution business since 2017.
Okay.
I've been working with cigars since 2009, and I got introduced to cigars through a sommelier training that I did in Europe. I kind of wanted to reference that part of my life. So the shorthand for sommeliers, which is essentially a wine specialist or a wine expert, usually in a restaurant, is SOMM, short.
Yep.
So the whole brand carries that name, references my wine background. Obviously, it requires a pretty refined and precise palate. And thank you for the introduction. I also wanted to note that I'll actually be smoking 2 cigars side by side.
Oh, perfect. That's right.
So I picked 2 of these blind, and this whole idea came around. There's a lot of anecdotal evidence on what humidity does, and Boveda probably has the best non-anecdotal information about it. So I said, why don't we get a statistically significant number of data points, so about 1,000 people, to enjoy these cigars and figure out which humidity works best. So I picked 2 of these blind. They're from 2 different bags. The bags are going to be at 65, 69, and 72 respectively. We've kept them at, right, as you said, 4 weeks, which should be enough time for it to even out completely.
Yep.
And then we have the actual data points collected by Boveda's push sensor. So we'll have these data points where you can exactly see which humidity, and also I'm double fisting cigars, so yay. How about that morning? Awesome. I have 3 regular production blends out of SOMM. This is the BDX Blanc, made or referring to Bordeaux, a famous region in France, known primarily for its red wines. However, they produce a smaller amount of white wines that are rare but equally revered. They are absolutely incredible. It's one of my favorite styles. So when you do take a puff of this, you're going to be greeted by absolutely beautiful creaminess, cedar, oak, vanilla, nuttiness as well. Nuttiness is typically a good indicator of oak aging, especially for those white Bordeauxs, as well as vineyard peach, which you don't find in this cigar, but we got about as close as we can get. So with that,
awesome.
Let's start.
We're going to be lighting up with our SOMM lighters, by the way. We do have them with us. We want to make sure you knew we had them. And I had a kind of a grin on my face because I squeezed the cigars as I took them out of the bags. And I turned and looked at Nate. He looked at me funny. And just from squeezing them, I already have an idea of what I believe their RHs. But let's smoke them.
So there's a beautiful, I love that you mentioned you had an idea. So this is the first time we're doing it essentially nationally. We've done a similar event, first of its kind, in Humidity of Lisle in Illinois last year. It was incredibly well received, and both of us, I believe, Nate and I, we had our preconceived notions at what humidity they're going to be, what we're going to like, what these smoke like, and that turned not to be the case because we smoked them blind. The only person who knew was the owner of the lounge.
Yep.
And it was an eye-opening experience. So I hope everybody who decides to join us for this has a similar one.
Thank you.
All right, we got one going. Let's get the next one going. Dave, did you also grab sort of like eyes closed out of a bag, or do you know which percentage you're smoking?
Oh no, I know exactly which, and not to be outdone by Vlad. We have all three.
Outstanding.
Triple fisting. All right.
Dave, tell us a little bit about your role with small batch.
Well, I'm extremely fortunate to go to work every day with my best friend. And that is so incredible to say out loud. I don't think I've really said it in that way before, but it's true. Andrew and I got linked up about 10 years ago in 2015. And then that relationship just kept evolving, and we kept tackling more projects together and overcoming different challenges. And today we just get to tackle everything together, and it is so awesome. Mostly I do on-page stuff for tasting notes, some SEO, marketing, Instagram, social media stuff. But yeah, try to do anything and everything I can to help Andrew out, because he's a visionary, you know, and he's got a lot of things he wants to tackle, and my job is to help him do it.
There are a few things better than loving what you do, man. So that's awesome to hear.
Absolutely.
Okay, I'm gonna note, just because, right, I lit them side by side. There's two different. The profile shows up slightly different on your palate. One is more pronounced, more creaminess, right? Vanilla, cedar, oak, everything that I mentioned previously. The other one comes off a little more, and muted is not the right word, but not as apparent. It just impacts the profile a little bit differently. Very, very interesting to undergo this again.
I can already tell differences between the two that I just was smoking.
Absolutely.
And now I've got number 3 coming in.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what 3 is like. Here we go.
I love it. The fun part is ultimately, for everybody who joins this, I want to make sure that we're not going to ask you to do flavor notes. We're not going to try to have you break this cigar down on what it is, or you know, make it difficult. We're really just looking for an answer to one single question, which is, out of the 3, or out of the 2 in this scenario, in my case, which one did you like the most? That's it. That's all we want to hear from you. And depending if you do it blind like we do, or you pick a certain humidity you think you're going to like, taking another one that you believe you might not will provide some very, very interesting experiences. And it's unique. Nobody's done this before. This is going to be something interesting.
Yeah.
Vlad the pioneer.
We had an absolute blast at that event in Chicago at the Humidity of Lisle. And we'll get to this, Dave made a good point before we started, and we ended up having the same thing happen at the event. I believe, what was that, last May, Vlad, in Chicago? One of the attendees had brought with them the Cigar Medics humidimeter. And after we had picked and found out which was our favorite and what humidity that was and what all 3 actually were, this customer had actually used the humidimeter on all 3 cigars prior to lighting all of them. And it was really interesting because the humidity that both Vlad and I had picked the same cigar, and the humidity that we thought, it turned out to not be that one. And the 2 cigars were only 1% off with using that humidimeter. Now that's, of course, there's some variation there because it's a rough translation of relative humidity from the moisture content in the cigar, if I understand the science there correctly. But it was interesting to see that they were relatively close, but just enough different to make it a noticeable preference of which cigar we really liked.
That's a great point. You're right. I remember that was a very humbling is maybe the best way to describe it, where I was so certain I knew what it was because I keep my personal humidor with 65% Bovedas.
You and I both got that.
Yeah, exactly. Like we were both, you have someone like Nate who works with Boveda, right? Humidity is what they do. They know it inside out. And someone who believes like me that I just keep my stuff at 65 for reasons, that's just what I enjoy, ended up missing it by, not a nautical mile, but close enough.
Vlad, what would you say was the impetus for wanting to do this? What went off in your head that made you say, you know what, this is a great idea and we should do this with, blind with consumers and pretty much anybody else that's interested in it?
That's a great question. So what was the idea behind it? I like learning things, and there's a lot of things in the cigar industry that are anecdotal, that are experience driven, but anecdotal things don't really translate. Like you can't really extrapolate. You can't make great informed decisions based on anecdotal evidence. It can point you in the right direction, but it can also infer completely wrong things, especially if it's your, if your initial presumption is incorrect. Anything you pull out of that is going to be incorrect as your premise was incorrect. So I said, okay, rather than me say 65% is where my blends smoke the best, or 69 or 72 or whatever, we want to get data. And it's funny because a certain humidity, I won't disclose which one, I think it was like 75% out of those 20, 30 people that attended that just like took the lead and just galloped, right? If we were watching a pony race, this started leading, 3 heads by the first turn, and by turn 6, it was, 15 lengths ahead of it.
Yep, it was very interesting.
And then I wanted to share as well. I mean, look, what Boveda does, the fact that you can keep your, a cigar is ultimately a fossil. This is a living fossil. This is a perfect picture of the time that this tobacco spent being made, being fermented, blended, aging. Then when everything was rolled together, this is absolutely incredible. So the fact that humidity can impact your flavor as well as overall experience, I think it's absolutely incredibly important for you to learn to simply increase your enjoyment. Because if you are a cigar lover and even if you have 2 cigars or you have 200,000 cigars, which if you do, let's talk, we want to be friends. You want to keep it at the right humidity. You want to make sure that those cigars are at their technical peak. Now you can like them or dislike them, but you want to make sure that everything you can take from a technical standpoint is taken care of. And there's no better partner than Boveda, right? They keep it consistent. I don't have a portrait yet that says, for my humidor I use Boveda, but maybe further down the line.
Let's make it happen.
Let's make that happen.
We can definitely make it happen. Now, I'm really glad that we are doing this because Nate knows this about me. I am a stickler about people enjoying their cigars to the best of their ability. And obviously it's all the prerogative of the smoker themselves, right? Like we can't tell somebody that they have to use 69, 70, 72, whatever. But it's important that people know from a knowledge standpoint, as well as an experience standpoint, what the difference can be by using particular relative humidity percentages, right?
Correct.
And so this to me is where it's at. And I'm so happy that we are doing this. I think it's important for people to know that there are differences in smoking experiences based on the relative humidity that you are storing your cigars with. Yeah. So this is awesome. Kudos to you guys. I'm stoked that we're doing this, Nate.
And what's fun, and this is what we troubleshoot on our end, both with cigar retailers and then to the end consumer. Mm-hmm. When let's say you have a cigar that's just really your favorite and you smoke like a few others that pepper in, but that's like your daily driver and you really love that cigar. Like I was at my home shop 2 days ago and a guy walked in and bought 9 boxes of a Romeo and Juliet. I didn't see the top or bottom of the box. Oh, hey, my wife and my daughter Evelyn are watching. Thanks, ladies. That's awesome. Daughter is on spring break, so she's enjoying a little time watching me here on camera. But what's very interesting is that guy obviously likes that particular Romeo and Juliet. Well, if he can figure out and were to, let's say, do this experiment, and we make it very easy because you can literally buy 3 Boveda bags and a couple of Boveda, like 2 other Boveda packs, a 65 and a 72, and you just take the 69 out of 2 of the bags and you drop in a couple or one. You want to do a couple because it'd be fun to do it a couple rounds to really make sure you're like figuring it out, and see which humidity you like best on that particular cigar. And then figure out, based on how you store your cigars, which humidity is going to get you to that point. If you have a wood humidor, it's going to probably be different. If you have a cooler or a cigar refrigerator, something that's really airtight, it's going to be a different percentage. That to me is very interesting because now you've maximized, one of our taglines is maximize your passions. And now you're able to actually maximize that experience. You're getting the best out of your favorite cigar.
You're absolutely right. Empowering people through learning more to have a better experience. I mean, that's phenomenal. Again, if that person who bought 9 boxes of that Romeo and Julieta can get 2%, we're not even talking about 20% more enjoyment. But if he can get 2% more enjoyment per cigar, that just snowballs, and your life is going to be that much richer by having a better experience.
Just imagine if he's been smoking them at, say, just throw a number out there. Say he's been smoking them at 65% his entire life, right?
Yep.
What if he threw them into 69s or 72s or any other percentage for that matter and realized, holy shit, excuse me.
Drinking game.
Yeah, there you go.
Well, there it is.
But what if that person realizes, oh my God, like I actually like the cigar even more now. You know what I mean? Storing it with 69s or 72s. I think that this is really important from an education standpoint as well as an experience standpoint for everybody to do, not just us doing it now. Although this is awesome and it's blowing my mind.
It's fun, right?
This is awesome.
Do you have one that's standing out to you?
I do.
Because I do, for sure.
I do. I am enjoying all 3 of them, but the unbanded one to me.
Me too.
I'm losing my mind over.
Me too. So whatever one
losing my mind
we have that's unbanded. So we have kind of the same as what we did, Vlad, in our first go round in Chicago. One unbanded. One of these has a red X on it, which is, we were laughing because on the Burgundy, it's very, very difficult to see it. There's no way you can even see it. We can see it. We know which one it is. And then there's one that has a number 1 on it. So I would say, kind of going in order so far, the unbanded is for sure in the lead. Then the red X over here is number 2.
Yeah, same.
And then this number 1 is my least favorite.
Yeah.
Stop the count. Collusion. Stop it right now. So if you guys remember from Chicago as well, we had, going back to the horse analogy, right? We had someone take the lead, and then about, I want to say after the first third, something came, right behind it and like took that lead. Yep. And I'm like, okay, so not only is it, I enjoy this portion more, but then it changes. And then it, the initial favorite ended up taking it all the way through. So I wish I've used that Cigar Medics that you guys mentioned earlier, and to make sure that, pardon me, that there's absolutely, that the humidity was perfectly. Now, as far as we could tell from using the sensors and getting the data, it was perfectly set because it took almost 6 or 8 weeks before we did the event. So it was, we tracked it. It started on day X. On day Y, it was just a perfect level. It was a very flat and boring chart. Once you see it. But that's
what was fun on this go round, because by the time when we did the first go round, we weren't going fast, but we were kind of like, all right, we got to get this to the shop, get the cigars in the bag, get them starting to kind of acclimate. And then it was a month later, boom, we're there. So it all kind of came in a right quick hurry. This time we were more prepared. We had a better idea, conferring with our internal research lab to go, how do we get these cigars to equilibrium, if you will? So to 65 to 69 to 72 as quick as possible. So what we did is we stored, I think, Vlad, were there 80 cigars each, or was it more than that? 80 cigars.
80 cigars.
80 cigars. And so we did like 2 of our humidor bags for each humidity, like 40 cigars in each, I think is what they did. And we layered multiple packs on top and below the cigars. And the reason we did that, even though those humidor bags are perfectly functional with just one of those packs, we wanted that to come to equilibrium. So to 65%, let's say, almost within, an hour or two. And by doing that and getting all that extra surface area, that makes sure that those cigars, which are, absorbing moisture a little more through the foot than they are through the head of that cigar, that those cigars are getting to where they need to be as fast as possible and then can really sit there for that full, 6-7 weeks, if you will. And I think it's even more fun to taste them now, knowing that we had a longer amount of time and that we had a little more kind of dialed in process doing this. This is super fun for me.
100% getting that equilibrium, which is a very badly rated movie with Christian Bale from early 2000s.
Oh, yes, it is.
Yeah, I actually like that movie. It's one of my guilty pleasures. I really, really enjoy it, especially the Robert Frost part.
Sure.
I find that there are always awesomely bad movies that people love, and they're just every now and again they're like, I don't know what to watch. I'm going to turn this.
I know it's gonna be one of those becomes a cult classic.
We all have that movie that if you're scrolling through, let's say whatever live TV streaming service you have, YouTube TV, Hulu, some type of cable or dish network, whatever. There's that handful of movies that if you scroll through, you're like, oh yeah, I'm watching that. One of the top of the list for me, Roadhouse.
Oh man.
Another one, Beer Fest, the Super Troopers guys. That movie comes on, I'm like, no, I'm watching that now.
Yeah.
It's hilarious.
There's never a bad time to watch Happy Gilmore.
And there you go. Tommy Boy, I was watching at the Cigar Club the other day. I was like, I'm just going to have this on in the background because I love that movie.
Office Space.
Yes, Office Space. That's such an incredible
every
movie.
time.
So and I told them if they move my desk again, I used to be able to watch these couple of squirrels, and then they moved my desk again, and I kept the swing line instead of the basket because it doesn't bind up as much. And I love that in that scene, he's talking to his coworker, the next cubicle over,
who's not paying attention to him,
who's trying to get out because he's trying to avoid the bot. These are great things that we do,
Oh man,
it's all good fun.
Hey, your work, anybody ever say you got a case of the Mondays?
Oh my gosh.
So no, man, you get your ass kicked for that.
I'll admit, Vlad, because of Office Space, every time I walk over to any printer, all I can think about is smashing the hell out of it like they do in Office Space with the fax machine.
With the same song.
Yes.
Oh, man.
So we did it, actually. One of the there was a hotel I was involved with, and there was a fire and floods and all this other stuff, but we had to throw a bunch of stuff out. And this printer, man, it can't be that difficult to figure out that it needs to print, right? It just needs to print. And we hated it. We all hated it, but it was a sturdy piece of equipment that we just had to keep there, as tends to be in an office environment. So when we had to throw it out, we practiced our aim on it.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
PC load letter. What the does that mean?
I was very, very happy about that one. That's one of my, very fun.
Oh, it's good times. I love that.
By the way, I followed you guys and I took the band off for the one that I really liked. I took the band off just to kind of differentiate them. And I smoked a little bit quicker to make sure that they are actually just right. That they're almost even. So I got to catch up.
I'm trying to do right now.
I'm pretty much right on the nuts.
Same.
I think I'm pretty much right there. Yep. Well, and I don't know if I told you this, Vlad, the first go round when we did this. I told Matt, who's sitting behind the camera here, and Matt was there capturing all kinds of great content for that event. And we love spending time together. I said, I'll be honest, Matt, the one thing that I really want to do, because Vlad is a very knowledgeable and accomplished sommelier, I just want to end up picking the same cigar as Vlad. Because if we end up with and we're talking similar notes and different flavors that we're getting, or this is a clear favorite, I'm like, all right, at least then I know I'm kind of in the right wheelhouse. Because I assumed we probably would smoke cigars at very similar levels of humidity. I store my cigars at 65%. I generally like to smoke my cigars, most of them, somewhere between 63 and 65% if you test the actual cigar. That's kind of been my favorite for a long time. The owner of one of our home shops is a guy by the name of Jeff Hogan. Awesome dude. Jeff is the owner of that shop, as well as a brand of cigars called Crux Cigars. And at least a dozen years ago, we were talking about, this is well before I worked for Boveda. I had used 69% in a Pelican case to store my cigars. And I said, Jeff, what do you store your cigars at? And he goes, he's been a longtime fan of Boveda, a huge supporter. He goes, I typically like 65%. And he goes, it's much better combustion. Tobacco's a little bit drier, but I think the flavor is much better. And I'm like, oh, I'll give that a try. And I've settled in that sweet spot ever since. And I try other humidities. Like I will keep cigars in our humidor bags. I won't generally swap out the 69% pack that comes in all of those bags. But if I do want to do my own test, I'll take it out and put it in a container with 65 and see if I can tell a difference. And generally I prefer a little bit drier.
Yeah, I think I run 69 in my wood humidor. I wouldn't say it leaks necessarily, but I just have always run a 69 in there, and I find that it ends up being about the same relative humidity as everything that I put in like Tupper doors or my humidor bags and my acrylic humidors as well. But I generally run 65s as well. I just have always found that I prefer it right around 66, 63, 64 to 66% relative humidity for my smokes. That's just what I've always enjoyed, but now it makes me more excited to figure out which one of these I enjoy the most.
Yeah, right.
69, nice. First of all, I don't know if you can tell I'm blushing. I know there's a little bit of glare up here, but I am blushing because my take was the opposite. I wanted to make sure that I nailed the same humidity as Nate. I was like, I don't want to miss, have the humidity experts and be like, why does Vlad have a peasant palate?
That's hilarious. Well, I'm very flattered.
65% came around, again, anecdotal evidence. I didn't decide, I'm going to prefer this over that. When I lived in Europe, right, what I had available was primarily Cubans. It was like 90% of the market.
Yep.
Obviously, that's no longer the case today, but back in, pre-2015, I mean, you didn't have anything else. So because of its inconsistency of the quality control, I prefer it at 65, both for combustion, like it makes the draw typically a little bit better. And again, this is all anecdotal evidence. Like I didn't sit down and I'm like, oh, I like this. I was just like, hey, this seems to have the least amount of issues based on my, anecdotal experience. Like that's it. And the funny part was it's probably not just humidity. It could have been the way it was bunched, the way it was shipped, like all kinds of other things that I just have no way. But for these, I know the way they're tested. Like I can stand behind all of these, and I do stand behind them. And if anybody does experience an issue, please let me know. Like it happens. We made 100,000 cigars last year. So if there's an issue with one, please let me know. Like I'll err on the side of generosity.
Absolutely. Yeah. Well, JP and I are very fortunate to work for a company like Boveda in that even if we know on our end that there was probably some type of user error, or, let's say a shop had some Bovedas that they were sitting on for a long time, we're just going to replace it for you. Like we want you to have good product. We would rather you be happy and be confident that your customer doesn't pick it up and go, hey, we can feel some salt crystals here in this Boveda. Is this dried out? We know it still functions totally fine. It's very similar when Boveda carried and sold our acrylic humidors, which are still available. Not through Boveda, but through a company out of Chicago called Northwoods Humidors. So they're still available. One of the tricky things with those units was like if the lid was a little too tight, well, you're not going to be happy with that. You're going to ask for a new one. If that lid has a little bit of wiggle room, we know here at Boveda that lid is still sealing perfectly well, but that consumer is now thinking, oh man, this is going to be leaking. My cigars are going to get dry. This is not going to be good. So you end up replacing that. So we take care of everything. And it's so nice to work for a company that stands behind what we do and go, we just make it right. We got you, no problem. We're just going to make it right for you.
Yeah, it's very much a no.
I love that. I always remember one of my early mentors that said, you can't stay in business by making people unhappy unless you're in New York.
Then they thrive on it.
Part of the experience, right?
Dude, there's something about this unbanded one. The aromatics in it,
it's incredible.
Are incredible.
Everything is more
robust,
forward and pronounced.
Yeah.
The retrohale is smoother.
Yeah.
The other two, like, so let's see, this one, right? I said the number, this is my least favorite. It's the retrohale's a little bit punchier. It's a little more peppery, like stronger, not quite as balanced.
I would say it's not as balanced. That's for me. That's what.
Not bad. It's
no,
just,
not at all.
This is more to my liking.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's firing on all cylinders.
There you go.
That's what I'm getting between the two. Like one of these is a clear. You know what it's like. If you guys have watched sports, right, or played sports, you know when everything just aligns, right? You have the perfect overview of the entire game. Like you throw it, and you know the guy is going to make that 1 in a million shot right then and there. Which also brings me back to New York. I love another person said, "Hey, a 1 in a million shot in New York happens at least once a day." So because there's so many people, right?
There's so many people.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So that's such a good analogy of like extrapolating big numbers.
Yeah.
Dave, I see you're smiling ear from ear, especially in that, like, what are your takes here?
Well, I was going to do the contrarian thing and unban my least favorite, but then I messed up and I unbanded my favorite. And I'm really curious to know too if it's the same as you guys, but it is very much different. It almost tastes like a slightly different blend from each one.
Totally.
And my favorite thing about these is that we always preach personal preference, but you can't actually know your personal preference unless you experiment.
Boom.
Yep.
And when you go out and you buy Boveda packs, you don't buy one, you buy, I don't know, 1,000, 100, 10, right? You buy enough. And so you get kind of in a rut. And so preaching personal preference every day without experimentation kind of falls flat. And that's what everybody here is coming together to allow to happen. And I think it's magical.
I think
So
it's
cool.
great.
It makes me incredibly happy to hear you say that, because that is something that I preach to consumers. It's something that I preach to our retailer partners is, hey, I know, just for example, I know you only carry 72% in the 8 gram, the 60 gram, 320 gram. Any reason you wouldn't want to carry the 69 and 65 or also 84s for seasoning humidors? And I get this response a lot, Nate. I'm sure that you do as well. And it is, I have trained my customers to use 72%. And I don't know if there is anything that hurts my heart more than to hear that, because, man, what we're doing right now with these 3 different cigars under 3 different relative humidities is a revelation.
Yeah,
and
absolutely.
everybody needs to experience this. Dave, you just said it. Everybody needs to experience this.
Well, and Boveda makes it very, very easy and economical to try an experiment like this.
100%.
Because we make 3 sizes of what we call 1-year humidor bags. They're a really heavyweight poly that's odorless. Comes preloaded with a 69% pack. So you already have the 69% pack. Now, let's say you're just going to start with our small humidor bag, which is at retail $5.50, maybe $6. You can't get a Tupperware and a Boveda for, I don't know, under 12, and one that's going to seal really well. And now you've got Tupperware stacked up everywhere. It's really easy to go out and buy 3 even small bags or medium bags, depending on how many cigars you're going to try it out with.
Right.
And then just buy even a couple 60-gram packs, which would still fit in those small bags. That's only $4.50. Those are going to last for a full year. The big packs are going to last way beyond that in those bags.
Right.
Now you have, after your experiment, you've got a Boveda pack that you can just throw in your interior pocket or drop in the side compartment of your door, put it in your golf bag. Now you've got storage to take out for dinner, even to your cigar club if you don't want to bring a big bulky Pelican case. I used to carry an 8 to 10 count Pelican case. I stopped buying them at $45 a pop after 2 of them got stolen in back-to-back years in Las Vegas. I'm like,
wow,
screw this. I'm just going to start bringing Boveda bags. Now I bring our medium bags, and I'll pack some for our Boveda team for our big trade show coming up the end of next week. And I just layer them in my carry-on in between some t-shirts, and every cigar comes through perfectly. And now I've got 12 cigars instead of 10 cigars or 8 cigars. So it's an easy tool to be able to try an experiment like this without, spending hundreds of dollars on multiple coolers, Tupperwares, you name it. So to segue out of that, Vlad, why don't you talk a little bit about how you envision this experiment going to the end user? once these ship out from small batch and people actually order this and pay for it?
Sure. So first of all, I hear that Boveda has a really, really good business model. That's my takeaway from what you guys said. The other thing is with the big poly bags, I can guarantee that they are good for at least a year plus.
Yes.
Because the last year's PCA was what, in July?
Yep. March.
March.
That's right. So now we're in March. You guys gave me a couple of bags, just like, hey, here, take them. We don't want to pack them. They're still sealed. They still work. In fact, I popped them open this morning, like one of them, and I have like 4 or 5 left.
Yep.
The stuff is still perfectly done. The big 60 grams that are, I had like 2 or 3 extras that are separate. They're still beautiful, like just as they should be. They're not hard. They're not crispy. So, yeah, it's
a long time. A long time.
Absolutely.
Yep.
I mean, I kind of went away from using a Pelican case as well. Like I had that big, or actually no, I'm gonna mention my good friend Ben from Luxury Cigar. He grabbed one of my like 15 count or 10, 15 count Pelican.
Yep.
And he held on to it for like a year.
Oh no.
He just borrowed it. He like needed storage for when he was flying out of Vegas. And I'm like, yeah, man, just ship it when you get home.
It's a lease arrangement. Yeah.
So like a year goes by and he's like, hey man, I just feel bad here. Take the big one. So now I have like a 50 count one.
Oh,
and I'm not carrying that around. So my personal carry-on bag is like a Ziploc with a Boveda in there. That's it.
Yeah.
Tuck it in there and we're good to go.
Yep.
As far as the experience, so we do 2 things. The bags themselves, and I'm gonna close my eyes and turn it around so I don't know what it is. They're gonna ship like this. So one, you're gonna get a package that is at perfect humidity level,
just like
shipping directly from small batch.
Yep.
That takes away all the guesswork and all the other prep and everything else that Nate has mentioned, right? You want to figure out which humidity, like we've already done that for you.
Yep.
And you're essentially just paying for the cigars, which is, I think, a great experience to kind of have it ready, set to go. You don't need to leave it for longer. If you want to acclimate it so you don't smoke it right off the truck, ROTT, like that'll still be fine because Small Batch has done a great little article which you can reference, and they use Bovedas along with a thermometer, and Dave can probably talk more about it, where they looked at which shipping agent, USPS, UPS, whatever, FedEx, DHL, does the best in terms of both shipping time, the temperature changes, and everything else. And turned out USPS does the best job out of all of them.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's a great article to reference, and it's a great little point where, like, hey, everything that I get from Small Batch is more or less ready to kind of smoke right off the bat. Yeah, it's still good to kind of leave them if you're, on the East Coast shipping from West Coast. It's still a shock for 3 to 5 days, right?
Yep.
But most everything gets to you from Small Batch in like 3 days, so it should be fine, especially with the way they're packaged. So really, the guest experience here is it arrives ready, set to go to your door. All you got to do is join us, smoke it together, ask some questions, say yay or nay. We're going to send a little follow-up link that essentially says, hey, out of the 3, which one did you like the most? We like this one. Great. And we're going to use that as a reference point, even if we just need to kind of the way you guys did, right? Unbanded versus the one with the red X, which is a really, really good color to use on a burgundy band. And then the one with the number 1.
With that earlier.
Yeah, I know. We laughed.
So just to kind of piggyback what you were saying a moment ago, people are Nate and I have tons of friends, even people that we encounter at shops and whatnot, that always ask us, they're like, you guys have any new cigars or any, you know what I mean? Any kinds of experiences in cigars that are different, something that I haven't done before. This is it. Like, this is a great opportunity to do something different than the norm, right? Which is just buying either the cigars that you're used to smoking, that you're kind of loyal to, ingratiated to, or trying out new ones, right? This is a really great opportunity to do something different that helps you understand your preferences and what you enjoy the most, and then maybe applying that moving forward and having the very best smoking experience that for you personally you will get.
Well, and I equate it to first I want to throw a shout out to Small Batch, and there are a lot of retailers out there, subscription services, retail shops, online retailers that do an incredible job packaging and making sure the cigars get to you in pristine condition. I will say I should have taken a couple pictures of the package that the guys at Small Batch out in California sent to me, and they're all some of the best guys that I know in the industry, some of the best huggers in the industry. Yeah, right. They packaged that order so meticulously and carefully so that nothing would get damaged. It was awesome. Like, it was just perfect. So shout out to all those retailers that are doing it well. Keep up the good work. There's a subscription service out of Nashville called Standard & Twain. And it hits all these notes for me because you get this cool, 1800s looking parchment pouch, inside some bubble wrap that has a Boveda pack in it. And then it's got 2, 4, or 8 cigars. And it's cool to do with your friends because everybody, when you order that month, get the same cigars. And then you get a parchment band that has a QR code on it, and everything is blind. So you just go, which one do I want to light up now? So you smoke that cigar. I generally try to figure out, can I tell what the wrapper is, what country the tobacco is coming from, or, countries, if you can try to figure that out. And then maybe I'll have a stab at it and say, I'll take a guess at who the manufacturer is. I've gotten the cigar, like all of that, twice perfectly. One of them was kind of a dead giveaway in that it was Aromacraft. And one of the giveaways of Skip cigars is that wrapper is always pulled back a tiny bit from the foot of that cigar. It's kind of a signature, I think, that Aromacraft does on all their cigars. Another one was a Padron 1964. And it was the shape, the length, the look of it, the taste, all of it. I'm like, this has got to be
the single cap. The single cap.
Yep. I was like, this has to be a Padron. And I got that one. So, but what's fun is I've had several cigars that when I actually scan the code and you get to do this cool swipe over. So shout out to Kellen and the folks at Standard & Twain. But it's cool to get a cigar that you maybe didn't enjoy the first go round, whether you bought it at a shop or it was something I took home from the trade show. And now I'm smoking it going, man, this cigar is really awesome. And you're like, you smoke it blind and you don't have that same bias as to what you're smoking.
Preconceived notion about it.
Based on what the band looks like or who the manufacturer is, whatever. And you're like, I really like that cigar. And there are others that you go, I thought I did like that cigar. And this go around, I didn't really care for it so much. It's just a fun experiment to do that blind. And you don't have to. I think the majority of cigar smokers are like, it's a good cigar or I didn't enjoy that cigar. And that's totally fine. But even when I was doing a video with Rob, my former coworker here at Boveda, and he's a good cigar, bad cigar. Like, that's really his wheelhouse. And we were smoking a cigar and he goes, tastes like toasted marshmallows. I'm like, yeah, it totally does, buddy. And I'm like, see, you can get it. It's all a matter of, you don't have to do that. And if it's not fun, don't do that. But I think it's fun to try to figure out, like, what else does this taste like? Does it taste like a coffee I enjoy or a cocktail I like or a certain food item that I like a bar of chocolate or a marshmallow, or I often use the word nougat or marzipan, that creamy, nutty sort of filling that you get in candy bars and candies to describe that like vanilla-y, nutty sweetness that you get. That's all a ton of fun for me and just adds to my experience. And there are cigars that I'll smoke end of next week at the trade show that I'll just smoke for the sake of smoking. And I probably won't pay a lot of attention to them. But then there are others that you'll smoke and you're like, oh my gosh, I'm busy and not paying attention. And this cigar still tastes like a banger. I mean, it's just awesome. So I think that's a blast.
Yeah. I would say I'm on the other end of the spectrum. I can certainly pick out flavor notes, things of that nature, even aromatics and things like that. But I find myself more often than not just going for, is the construction great? How's the draw? What's the experience like? For me, that's what makes a great cigar. And Michael Herklotz is one of my favorite people in the industry. And he's one of those people that'll tell you, and I'm the same way, light the cigar, experience the cigar, stay in the moment, enjoy the company that you're in, and don't overthink it. Now, I'm not saying Nate overthinks it. Nate is very good at picking apart a cigar and the things that he enjoys about them and maybe the things that he doesn't enjoy about them. But I think that's awesome that Nate can do that.
I just do it for me.
Exactly. And he just does it for him.
Yep.
And I think it's so important for everybody. When you light a cigar, don't go into it with any preconceived notions. Light that cigar, enjoy the company that you're in. And if you're not in any company, just enjoy the cigar. Stay in the moment, enjoy the experience. And hopefully you really enjoy that cigar. The last thing I want is for anybody to ever say they hate a cigar from any brand, really. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, and it happens. You know what I mean? People are like, I don't really care for the cigars from this brand. And like you said, like the cool thing about doing blind samplings, right, is that you go into it without any biases or preconceived notions about the brand, because you've had one in the past that blew up on you or didn't smoke well. And so now you hate that brand, right? Or you stay away from it. You might find yourself smoking one, you know, from,
you love it.
Yeah, from Standard and Twain or elsewhere, right? And then you smoke and go, oh my God, that was delicious.
Yep.
All right, I'm going to go back to them. You know what I mean? Like, I'm
Try
going
them
to
again.
Yeah. So anyhow.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I think that makes it really fun for a consumer who has a cigar shop close to them to go back in and say, all right, I typically thought I didn't like this brand, but I really like this cigar. Do you have other cigars you could recommend either in this brand or in other brands I might not know about that might give me that similar experience? And those retailers are like, yes, if they're good and they care about their craft, they're absolutely going to go, hold on, I got several for you.
Yeah.
And give them a price point, give them a, you know, like a range that you're willing to go in, and be willing sometimes to maybe go a couple dollars more if they're really telling you that this cigar is something you should try. Or on the other end, buy a less expensive cigar if they tell you this, like, don't sleep on this. This is a really awesome cigar.
Yeah.
I love it. You guys nailed it so well. I'm like smiling ear from ear, just about creating your own experience. And I love the juxtaposition between the two of you who are like, hey, I really want to dive in. I love that you mentioned marshmallows. One of the tasting notes that I never feel comfortable putting on there is cappuccino foam, because if I put that, someone's going to be like, get the fuck down. But what I'll really replace that with is milk chocolate, right? Milk chocolate is something that most of us had. You know, chocolate pretending to be chocolate. So it just really, I got the glare.
Yeah, right.
So I love that juxtaposition between the two of you guys where, you know, we're like, hey, first and foremost, I wanted to deliver on a technical component, right? I want to make sure the draw's right, the burn's right, everything's right. And this being a handmade product, sometimes, you know, we all smoked cigars that are maybe the Cuban draw, right? A little bit of resistance,
right?
Which I don't
McDonald's
mind.
milkshake
I
vein.
actually enjoy it. It's like, hey, the struggle makes it worth it, right?
I like that.
It's in the hunt, not in the conquest. So yeah, I really enjoy it.
Well, speaking of that, Vlad, I was at one of our home shops, Tobacco Grove, here in Minnesota, and Rainier Lorenzo, the owner of HVC Cigars. I love Rainier. He was back before I worked for Bobada. I owned and ran my own artisan hot dog cart. And when he was the first industry cigar maker that I met in person at my first trade show called TPE. And we're at the Sahara Hotel, and I see him, and I'm like, oh, I got giddy. Like, I was super excited. I tapped him on the shoulder, and he was one of those brands that engaged every time I posted a photo of his cigars. And I really have always loved his cigars. He would always comment, and then we started texting back and forth. I get like birthday messages, I get Thanksgiving, Christmas. Like, it just makes it awesome. Like, it just makes that brand even more lovable to me. We're smoking one of his cigars, and he goes into the humidor to grab another cigar, and he grabs one of his cigars, the Cerro Maduro. And if those of you who haven't ever met or seen Rainier on any type of social media, he sounds like this, like, bro, okay, we're going to like this. And I'm not doing it justice, but he has that Al Pacino and Scarface kind of like deep voice, and it's just
Zorro.
awesome. Yes. And he's like,
Yes.
he starts smoking, and I can see his face just go, And I said, I'm guessing like the draw's not right. He goes, no, it's way too loose. And I'm like, oh, I like a firmer draw as well. He goes, no, we're going to have to talk to the factory about this one. This is not good. This is no good. I'm going to go get another one. And he went in the humidor and grabbed another one. And then that one was where he wanted it, because he likes that little bit firmer draw. I thought that was super cool. That made the experience so much greater.
I love it. He's Dave remembers this one probably. He cooks a lot, and we did this small batch after dark during COVID. We ended up nerding out over pizza, where we took opposite positions and we had to debate, and it was a very healthy, very friendly debate, like an art form, I think, that's been lost, especially, you know, with how everything is, where people are polarized. But his take was, it's all about the sauce, and my take was all about the dough, or vice versa.
Sure.
No, his take was, it's all about the dough. My take was, it's all about the sauce. And after like 45 minutes back and forth, there's like 20 people here, and we're like diving into full-on nerdiness. And I mean, for literally 45 minutes. And I think where he kind of agreed with me, my take was, and pardon my French, I said, look, a shitty dough can be saved by an amazing sauce, but a phenomenal dough can be ruined by a shitty sauce.
Yeah.
And he goes, he takes the lean back and he goes, you're right. And I'm like, yes, but we nerded out, like full on nerding out. He's a great guy. I love his cigars. He's just great to engage with. We had a lot of fun. One thing to help out, going back to the flavors, in that little booklet that you'll receive as part of the package, it has a flavor wheel on there. So when it comes to tasting, a lot of it is going to be just making your brain link what you're experiencing to the actual word, right? And if you think about it from an evolutionary standpoint, or if you take the creationism standpoint on the other side, right? Really, it comes down to your ability to taste predates your ability to speak, right? Because first we needed to figure out, is this going to kill me or not, right? And then we needed to figure out, does this taste like grapefruit or does this taste like lemon or lime? Like, that's secondary. And then linking it to the actual word. So the fact that you have a visual representation right there helps with just helping your brain make the connection. And I've done this multiple times. Whenever I do tastings, like especially for wine, I'll pick a super aromatic, like New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc that just jumps with grapefruit or citrus in general. And people will go through it and be like, I can pick something up and I go grapefruit. And you see like 20 eyes, or I'm like, that's it.
That's it. Yep.
You guys figured it out. I just put an actual word to help your brain link it to that.
Yep. You named it. Yep. Exactly.
Vlad, do you remember I met you for the first time at TPE last year? So TPE last year. And you had handed me a sample cigar to try. And I believe, and I apologize for not recalling the actual name of the cigar, but I believe it was a Blue Label. And I began to smoke it, and it had some serious like acidity to it. And I walked up to you because I was losing my mind about it. And I walked up to you and I was like, dude, would you pair this with like an Alsatian Riesling? And you went, yep. He's like, that's exactly what that's for. And I, like, not exactly, but essentially you're like, yes, that's exactly like what you should be getting out of that. And to me, that was one of the coolest things ever, which is why I love that you have a background as a sommelier, because my mind went to that. Like, my mind actually went to like sipping an Alsatian Riesling, like, and then taking a puff of the cigar and then just going, oh my God, like if I had a Riesling paired with this right now, it would be the greatest pairing of all time. And so kudos to you, because I absolutely love what you're doing. I think it's very cool. It's very original. It's very different. And I just think it's a really great experience. So
it's super fun. Yeah. This is really cool.
Hey, I appreciate you doing that little throwback. I do remember it was a Rioja. So something that I don't like talking about, and it's just something you'll learn as a somm. And I'll make this comparison to like, doctors. You have professional language that you'll use with other doctors, right? Like medulla oblongata versus like, hey, your knee's broken, right?
Right.
So professional versus you're talking to guests. You never mention acidity. If you ever hear the words crisp, refreshing, effervescent, things like that, like it typically means higher acidity. And we don't speak about acidity in cigars, which I think is such a greatly missed opportunity. I want you guys to take a puff of this cigar and count from 1 to 5. If your mouth starts salivating, right, your cheeks start salivating within a second, it's
almost immediately
very high acidity. If it starts after 2, it's medium plus. If it starts after 3, it's medium. If it starts after 4, it's, when you get that like drying sensation where it feels like you almost ate a piece of coal out of some cigars, that's typically low acid. What acidity does, what saliva really does in your mouth, it washes away your palate and preps it for the next puff, or in case of wine, for the next bite or the next sip.
Yep.
Almost all of my cigars are going to have medium to medium plus acidity. And it's important because it makes you literally yearn for another puff. Like you want to have another puff. And it's not something to really talk about. There's just, the blends are made that way with higher acidity to balance it out, because I do approach it from a very holistic point of view, where I'm like, I want you to have a complete experience in this one sample. You want to add to it. You want to make a complementary pairing. Great. You want to make a mirroring pairing, or you want to make a contrasting pairing, right? Like add to it. Like we totally can. Like this with a Lafroig or something at Lagavulin, something Isla heavy, super smoky, which doesn't have it in there. Beautiful chef's kiss, like absolutely delicious.
I love me some Lafroig.
He certainly
that is
does.
my favorite.
It really does.
I did a great event, and I really enjoy doing it. I like doing Lagavulin with Lapsang Souchong, which is a smoked tea, and it's a choose your own adventure. So depending on how long you steep it, you can go anywhere from like very little to like no smokiness at all to like Johnny Black all the way to like Peat Monster.
Yes.
And it really comes down to your own experience. So I love doing that. I love customizing the experience for people, because ultimately this is what it's all about, right? Getting the right humidity is you customizing your experience. This is a finished product.
Yep.
So unless you dip it in something else, which I don't personally do, but you
turn it
matters
into
of taste.
You turn it into your Arnold Schwarzenegger tequila cigar.
Dude, that feels so good.
Love or hate the
Come
concept.
to California to fight fires with me.
Yeah.
That was a great meme when he's the governor. I loved it.
So he gives you the cigar and he goes, "Oh no," and he brushes it with tequila. And now you have a tequila cigar. I mean,
Yeah, Cedar Spill.
it's a great story. Yeah.
All right.
Your impressions are off the chain. So good.
Let's bring this full circle.
Yes.
I want to. I
wanna know,
I've
right?
been dying. I want to
Okay.
know everyone's thoughts, and I have not changed as we've
I'm
gone
same.
through these.
Same.
I
Yep.
have
I've not
changed.
seen either. I love this one.
Yep.
So for me, from least to best, the one that has a number 1 on it.
So that's our least favorite.
Least favorite.
Yep.
The one with the X on it is
That's
my
me too.
second least.
Yep.
And my favorite is this one, the unbanded.
Okay, so we're gonna open up number 1, which is that's our least favorite of these
Do
three.
we want to guess what we think the relative humidity is?
I want you guys to guess.
Okay.
You guys are pros.
I think number 1. I think number 1 is 65.
Oh, okay.
Didn't you say you like 65?
Yes.
You
All right.
That's why I love this. That's why I love
Was
this.
that just based off the field test in the beginning?
It was based off the field test and the smoking experience. The flavor profile of it was, I don't know, in some ways subdued.
Mm-hmm.
A little subdued compared to the other two.
Yeah, that is my least favorite. I'm going to say that this number 1 is 72.
Okay.
And I'm just going to go down in order: 72, 69, 65. That's what I think these are.
Can I throw in before you guys open it, because I want to learn as well, and I'll look at my bags right now. We remember about these preconceived notions when we did it at Humidor of Lyle, right? Because 65 should be like perfect combustion, like most easily, blah 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 blah, right? Most apparent. So I'm surprised that number 1 is the least favorite. I would assume that was going to be the case.
And
I would probably say, here, I'm going to, you know what? I want to see the reveal as well.
I thought that our unbanded was the firmest for me of my cigars. So I think that's why I think this might be 65, because it has that firmer feel to it. And that's just, again, differences in the cigars in that handmade product. It might just be that different. All right. So should we?
One note here.
Oh,
With
you got a note.
the unbanded one.
Yep.
The profile I'm going to paint a little word picture, so just bear with me here. I'm going to use a little bit of flowery SOMM language. To me, this is like a perfect sphere, right? Nothing is jutting out.
Yes.
Everything's like, there's no angles. It's not it's just perfectly round.
Yep.
The profile is clean. It's crisp. The profile I would explain as a wave. When I taste, I break it into 3/3. So I go front palate, mid palate, which is, you imagine your tongue, and then back or finish, right? Which is your like back of your throat. This just goes like a wave. It goes vanilla creaminess, cedar oak, then dives down. Then it goes a little bit of these spice notes. When I say spice, I mean baking spice. So it's probably going to be cinnamon, nutmeg, like all spice that, you imagine your baking spice rack that your grandma had, the one that rotates. At least my grandma did.
Yep.
And then it finishes off with sweetness. Now, for this one, which is the one with the band, I have the band right here. It does the other way. So it starts with that creaminess and morphs into spice, but it ends up on a dark roast, like espresso, almost coffee.
Yes.
Which is great. It's just, it leaves, and bitterness is not the right word, but it leaves a little bit of that like rich cacao and espresso, like properly roasted beans. Don't hate on me. I do own a little bit of Starbucks, but like it's not Starbucks level roasted, but like medium plus roast.
Yep. And for me to add to it, and I try to at least get other cigar smokers, like if I'm sitting at a cigar shop, to at least try it. I'm a huge fan of, and Dave, I was noticing you doing this. I'm a big fan of retrohaling my cigars. And I think for me, it became very clear on the retrohale on all three of these cigars. So my favorite here, it's perfectly rounded.
Yes.
The retrohale has a tiny little bit of spice that comes in at the very, very end, but it's perfectly balanced. This one comes in with a little more of that kind of punch of spice on the back of my throat towards the end. And then number 3, there's almost like a very pronounced herbal quality to it.
Okay.
And even more of that pepperiness on the back end. So it's like, I would use maybe like a little bit of a sharpness, not a, like, I don't mind the word bitter. I actually like that in foods and in cigars. If it like adds or accentuates or mutes, kind of does a cool thing with the cigar, but like just a little bit of it gets a little bit sharper on the retrohale, going from my favorite to my least favorite.
I agree.
Yeah,
I love it. Can I add a little bit on the bitterness? So because we're vintage, right? We're all past 30. Bitterness is the last taste out of the original like 5 or 6, right? That you develop, and you have to go past your bodily programming of sorts, because bitterness in the wild essentially means it's underripe, it's poisonous, it can be bad things essentially.
Yes.
So you move through it. There's a reason why you develop and appreciate. Some people never develop it because they just don't want to do it. But there's a reason why you develop appreciation for like amaros, or like your bitters, your like bitter profile, broccoli, right? Like broccoli raw that like gives you that little bit of bitterness in there. The leafy greens, and I do too. But I didn't like it when I was 22.
Yep.
I liked it when I was 28, 30.
Right.
As you kind of have to work through against your brain and say, you know what, this is fine. We won't get hurt. Like, this is delicious.
Yep.
And that's where the bitterness actually becomes cool and enjoyable. So if you don't like bitterness, that's fine. You have to work through, you have to learn to like it.
Yep.
65, 69, 72. I can't believe I'm saying that.
All right. All right. So I'm going in. JP's got 65 on the number 1.
Why don't you guys write it, and then we can show it.
Do we have a pen anywhere here? Hold on. Let me grab one here.
Love it. Making you guys do extra work. Dave,
All right.
What about you?
So
do you want to do your calls?
Yeah, well, they write it down.
65.
So the unbanded one for me is more floral. I get more baking spices like allspice, cardamom.
Yep.
This one is it's a little bit on the sweeter side than the others, but you know me, I love that. This guy I just unbanded, and I won't mention what it is because I know what mine are. This one has more of a sourdough bread thing happening. And this one I kept the band on. It's right in the middle. And the first half, I didn't enjoy it as much. The second half, it's catching up very much to my favorite here. But I also think it's so cool that the different humidity levels don't have that much difference in burn time.
Look at that.
Smoking them all together.
Yeah.
Which you might think the 72 might be going a little slower. You know, the extra humidity might cause the burn to stall a little bit.
Yeah.
Because, like, you know, we're all going to be in, or a lot of us will be in New Orleans next week for this trade show. It's been historically the past several years in Las Vegas. And, you know, New Orleans is one of those places when it's middle of summer, high humidity, is very difficult to keep a cigar lit smoking outside because there's so much moisture. It's just really challenging to keep that going. So yeah, I think it's very interesting. So I got them written down. So number 1 here, let's go ahead and open this up. JP said 65. I said 70.
Was the number 1 unbanded for you guys?
No, the number 1 had the 1 on the number 1 written
right.
on the band. And that one is 69.
Both wrong.
Both
We were
wrong.
both wrong.
Okay. So that is 69 on, if we go to this one, Matt, here, that's 69. All right. If we go to the X, which is the next one over in our order, or kind of our second favorite, that one is very interesting. 65.
Okay, 65.
So that's 65. And on this go round, the one that we liked the best, dun, 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 72.
Woo!
Yes.
Yeah.
So JP got that one right. 72.
I got
Well,
one.
that's amazing, guys.
I got one of three. Did you get none right?
None right.
Dude, isn't that crazy, you guys?
I think that's
like that is fantastic.
I love that.
I love it.
Vlad, I don't think we mentioned this before, but when we did this in Chicago, the one that we both picked as our favorite, we were convinced was 65, and it turned out it was 69.
You're right.
And
You're right.
What was the favorite for the overall group?
69, believe it or not. And
Yeah,
if you think about the established wisdom, right, in most shops, it's 70 over 70 because, A, it's an easy number. You can kind of keep it right. I am very fortunate that En Fuego here keeps everything at its like perfect humidity. Like you can just grab things and it's just beautiful, especially because it's so dry, right? Like you mentioned New Orleans, and like my hair doesn't really quite curl in high humidity, but like it works. For Vegas, like it's just perfect smoking experience. And 69 versus 70, that 1% difference, I'm assuming by the door opening, it's closer to 68, 69.
Yep.
Sure.
Because, right, that door opens, if you're, knock on wood, you're a great retailer, it opens 20, 30, 50 times a day.
Yeah.
Like, you're doing great. It was the overall experience in Chicago as well, where like 65 had like 3 votes, and then 72 had like, I'm throwing numbers out, I don't remember them off right away, but it's like 6. And then it was like 20 plus people where like 69% is just perfection.
Yep.
So, and you're right, you raise the humidity portion where like you'd think the 79 is going to burn a little slower, but with the right puff rate, it's everything's like razor sharp.
Yep.
It's almost as if they were blended properly.
So I do want to say, Dave, when you were
love that.
Dave, when you were talking about the flavor profile, dude, you were hitting it right on the head for me.
Absolutely.
I think that the one in your hand right now is the 72, and I think the one that's coming up right behind it right now is the 65.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly right, man.
That's what I
72 is my fave. 65 is the one that's coming in better the second half, but
Yes.
still 72 for me.
Because
me too.
I was getting much closer on the 65 as I got halfway through the cigar. I'm like, oh, it's getting but it's still that this 65 had that little bit of extra punch on the retrohale where it wasn't quite as well-rounded as this unbanded one for me, this 72. And what I find so fascinating is, like, I'm not bummed that I picked the not 65.
No, not at all.
I'm like, this is a cool experiment because now I want to go try this at home again and store some other cigars and figure out which one I want. So again, it sparks that same experimentation going forward with other cigars.
Yeah.
Yes. And if you guys are quick enough to get some of the very few packs we've got, my favorite thing, I'm going to say favorite a lot. I've got a lot of favorites today, is that these packs will last a very long time. Yep. So you can try the 72, the 69, 65 on other SOMM cigars. You don't have to be limited to just the SOMM BDX block.
Yep.
It's pretty cool. And you're not getting a factory second or some crazy offshoot cigar. You're getting one of the cigars that I personally smoked the most of last year.
Yes.
Which I think is really exciting on its own.
Man.
Yeah, Dave accounts for like 30% of all our retail customers.
That's awesome.
I went through a ton of SOMM last year. So
time for the reveal. So this is my favorite. This is the first unbanded one, and then the second one is the one I took the band off. I remembered which bag I pulled it. I'll show right now.
Drum roll, please.
This is the banded one.
And
it was at
69.
72. So, whoop.
Wow.
So I love that we all four of us.
72 is the one that I liked less.
Less? Okay.
And then 69 is the one I liked more.
Oh, interesting.
Wow.
So, peasant palates.
Was that by a wide margin for you?
Not a wide margin. It comes down to really like slight personal preference.
Sure.
Mhm.
But you ended up picking the same as last time.
I did. So
Yep.
at least I'm consistent in that, right? I'm 2 out of 2,
Yep.
which again could be, it's a 50-50 shot, but
Well,
I figured out. So I guess the takeaway for me here is I need to buy more 69% Bovedas.
mhm. We can help with that. I think what's fun is that, 3 of us all picked the same, and and we all got the same similar notes out of it. We all got that we really like that, and then Vlad's was a little bit different.
Yeah.
But again, the same as what he picked last time. I think that's super fun.
I also found it fascinating that Dave, Nate, and I all felt the same, that the further into the cigar we got, the closer 65 and 72 got to one another.
You're right. I was thinking that this was 65 and ended up 69, which again, I prefer my things a slightly lower humidity. It could be just a fact that I'm in Vegas. So yeah, if I take it 69 and I leave it on the desk for an hour, like that's going to lose some of its, right. Cigars are hydrophobic. They'll conform to their surroundings. So if you ever want to flavor your cigars, throw it next to sauerkraut in your fridge, preferably.
Delicious.
So let's kind of wrap this and tie this all together. Vlad and Dave, why don't you let us know, and for anyone listening, how can people go about experiencing and being a part of this cool experiment through small batch on this go round?
Take it away, Dave.
All right. So probably today, tomorrow at the latest, I will have the product created. It will show out of stock. And that's intentional because we're not going to ship these until Tuesday. That's 6 days from now. So if you go onto the product page, or if you read our blog post or check our social media post, you have to be logged in. But if you're logged in, you can set a back in stock notification. I think the button says notify me when available. And the system will notify you with an email as soon as we make them online for the public. There are very limited spots. That's why we wanted to give everybody the opportunity to log in, set that back in stock notification, and then Tuesday we will ship this very limited experience.
That's awesome. So next Tuesday. And
Yes.
One thing, Vlad, maybe you can mention that we want to do a fun giveaway to anybody that's watching. So Vlad, maybe you want to share where you can post that, and we can, to whoever is the winner, we'll send out one of these experiments, if you will, on the house for you to try.
I love it. So we're going to have 2 options. One, comment on YouTube, on Boveda's YouTube, right on this video. Just comment anything, say hi Vlad, or if you want to say hi Nate or hi Dave or anything special, just literally comment on it, and we'll put your name in a drawing. We'll run the wheel, and hopefully you luck out. This is a reference to the fact that I'm in Vegas, so let's do it. Let's gamble a little bit. And then the other one is we'll post this both on Small Batches profile, on SOMM Cigars, and on my personal profile. And if you comment on any of those, we'll put your name in the drawing. So that's kind of it. We want to give away 2 packs for everybody who's listening. Hopefully you get to join this. This is truly one of a kind experience. I'd hate for you guys to miss it. It's a very limited amount of spots. We'll do this over Zoom or an alternative platform, but we'll make sure everybody just has a great time. We'll open the floor. You guys can ask. And again, ultimately, you do get the tasting booklet as well. That's good for 33 cigars. So you'll use hopefully 2 of these on the SOMMs, and then you can use the rest for your own palate journey and experience. And really, it's just enhancing your experience with cigars. So why not try and find a new favorite, Humidity?
I just want to say this has been an awesome experience.
It's so much fun.
And I'm certainly not embellishing at all. Like, I had a really good time with this. I'm glad that we did it. I 100% think people should go click that notify when available and make sure that you take advantage of this. And then also, if you're watching, make sure you comment so you can get entered to win that pack.
And let's get everybody's social. Vlad, if you want to let people know your socials.
So you have SOMM Cigars on Instagram, and then you have my personal, which is Vlad the SOMM. Feel free to just follow either of those, comment on either of those once the post goes up. You have Small Batch Cigar from Dave, and then you obviously have this tiny little company that does Humidity called Boveda.
And Boveda's socials are Boveda Inc. So BOVEDAINC. So
you can find Nate and I if you look hard enough.
yes, you can. Gentlemen, thank you so much for taking time out of your day to do this with us. This has been an absolutely fantastic experience once again. Will I see either of you guys? Will we see you in New Orleans for PCA? Vlad, I'm guessing we'll see you there.
I'm going to take this year off. I have a 6-month-old that is actually 6 months today.
Oh, congrats.
And it just, thank you. It's just difficult to do family comes first. It's just difficult to do it this year. This will be the first PCA I've missed since 2017.
I understand. I have 5 kids, so.
While I'm sorry I won't see you guys, I'll see you guys soon.
You'll be there in spirit. And Dave, will you be out there this year?
Oh, yes. Yeah,
Excellent.
we'll be out there.
Look forward to seeing you,
We
man.
look forward to seeing you.
Yeah, likewise, guys.
You'll be missed.
Dave, sorry, just to mention one PCA a few years ago, Dave did a live interview that was actually never posted with a very, very good friend of mine, Mo Malley from Patina.
Yeah, Mo's the best.
Yay.
Just made a post with him on social media
Oh,
today.
one of the best humans.
I love Mo to death.
Agreed.
I love his cigars. I love him as a person. He's just amazing.
Couldn't agree more.
Dave was interviewing me, and Mo, in classic cigar fashion, passes by me and gives a full, full squeeze. I get double cheeked in the morning.
Yes.
And I'm looking at the camera, talking to Dave, and I turn around to Mo and I go, "You got to take me out for dinner to do that, big boy." And turn around to Dave. Dave's like, "We can't post this." Mo didn't realize we were being interviewed. So Dave stops, cuts the interview there. Mo's like, "Man, I'm sorry, I didn't know." Blah, blah, blah. And we just started laughing. It was, Tuesday, I think, during PCA. So it was a relatively quiet day, and we just laughed. I love that man so much.
That's fantastic. And that's one of my favorite things about PCAs. There's so many people in this industry that are just like that. I'm a big hugger. It's what I love about so much of the people in this industry, especially the small batch crew. Shout out to Mike. Last year at PCA, I don't think he slept a wink in 4 straight days.
I don't think so either.
Just a crazy animal. And every day if you've ever met Mike, he looks like Khal Drogo from Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
And I'd be with the customer and I'd look over and he'd just be grinning with his long beard and this furry vest he was wearing. And he'd just have his arms out and he'd go, "Huggies?" And I'm like, "Yes." And I get up from that customer. I'm like, "Give me a second." And I give him the biggest hug. And we're talking like legit full squeeze, bear hug. Love those guys. So thank you so much to both of you, to Vlad and to Dave, for joining us here on Unbox Live.
It was a pleasure, guys.
As always, make sure your cigars are well humidified. Head on over to your local retailer or to bovadainc.com, or you can find us on Amazon, and make sure you're stocked up and subscribed to Load Up on Bovada.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate you.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate this. Looking forward to seeing everybody on the next event.
Absolutely. Cheers, guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye.